if we got Eze on top of that, I think this is one of the best ever windows from any Premier League club. Maybe bar Liverpool because they are just being stupid now. Like, the amount of money they're spending is ridiculous.
How has it changed your view of the game, especially the women's game, having a daughter now?
Arsenal have always had that connection with black fans, with players. You know, you've seen that some of the legends of Arsenal. You look at Ian Wright, look at Thierry Henry.
Welcome to the Arsenal Humans Fanzone with me, Luce. This is the first episode series I've created basically, and it's basically because I realised that I've been yapping a lot and I want to hear from you guys because football is nothing without the fans. And as you can see on the screen, I'm joined by my first guest, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining me. Basically, I felt like Jamie was the perfect first guest to have on this new little series I've created because he, like me, loves the men's and women's game equally, and I feel like it's kind of rare to find. I feel like you get a lot of Arsenal women's fans that support a different men's side, or some of the men's fans don't really support the women's side. So I think it's nice to find someone so aligned in that way. A little bit about us as well. Like, we met at uni, so we met at UCFB, both studying multimedia sports journalism, and I guess we're both trying to see where that takes us. So as well as being football fans, we also work in the game as well. So I feel like that adds a different spin on it. But I feel like I couldn't have picked a better first guest to have. So I'm very happy you're with me, Jamie. Try not to big up your ego too much. I'm just going to actually get straight into the questions. So basically, how I'm going to start every episode with each guest is with the question, why Arsenal? So why do you support Arsenal? Who made you support it? Was it family? And like any early memories you've got of the game? Just tell me all.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Like, genuinely, as you said, what was it? I went to your first Arsenal men's game.
Yeah.
You took me to my first Arsenal women's game. It just kind of made perfect sense, right?
Mhm. I was going to say, actually, I think you're the only person I've been to a men's and women's game with as well,
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy.
literally, it's wow. It's been a journey,
No,
and
literally.
as the one thing is, we've had good games, we've had bad games. I feel like that's nice having a good like mix of
Hmm.
both, not just oh, you're going to go and watch every team win every game, or
Yeah.
you're going to lose every. It's nice having that kind of what could actually happen.
Would be nice to
Um,
win all the time, but yeah, we've
no,
gone
yeah,
through
it would.
a lot.
I was gonna say, but yeah, Arsenal. I think it's just always been something since I was a child. My dad supported him. Then my granddad supported them. Even not being here based where Arsenal is, it's still something that I've always just connected with the team. There's been a massive. I think one thing that's helped is there's been a massive South American influence on the Arsenal squad. There's always been Brazilians in the squad. You've had a lot of Portuguese players, Spanish players, and it's something that's always been there, which is kind of like an identity thing in terms, if you can connect with someone in the team, it draws you to that team. Um,
Do you
I think,
think
yeah,
that's why maybe your dad and your granddad would have supported Arsenal instead of maybe another team? Because obviously for me, like, I'm like, oh, I've grown up in London, so I've kind of just picked out the London teams. Whereas when you think if you've grown up in a different country, obviously something must draw you into it.
yeah, I think the black influence is massive. So because my dad's from Jamaica, for example, and Arsenal have always had that connection with not just black Jamaicans, but with black fans, with players. You've seen that some of the legends of Arsenal. You look at Ian Wright, look at Thierry Henry. These guys represent themselves as players, but also represent black footballers. Which to see the work that they've both done, and then going into commentary as well, which kind of leads through with me in terms of I do broadcasting, I do journalism. Seeing someone who is a black journalist who was a footballer really what makes me want to do the best I can to be in that position. And I think there's a lot of like historical reasons as well. I think it's a bigger club than people respect in terms of you look at like biggest English clubs, people say like Liverpool, Man United, fair enough. But then you look at Arsenal in terms of the only club who hasn't been relegated from the Premier League out of these big clubs in terms of, and I think Arsenal have a massive fan base. It's worldwide. Um, and so yeah, I do feel like sometimes they are kind of used as like kind of scapegoat for like, whatever happens, let's like banter Arsenal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, you look at the kind of, oh, we finished second 3 times in a row. Cool. But look at where we were before that.
Mhm.
And, in terms of the men's team, look at how much this team has grown, the kind of position we're in now. And, I was speaking with some fans the other day from Tottenham who were saying how, yeah, they won a European trophy. And I was like, well, I understand it, but you finished 17th in the league.
Yeah, I feel like
Like
that's a bit of
you
a
couldn't
mad
have
like.
finished, or is it 16th? So like you couldn't have finished lower without being relegated. So
Yeah,
yes, you won a trophy, but you won a trophy against a Man United side that was shocking in a competition that one of you was expected to win anyway. And then in the situation where you would have been relegated in the league. So I feel
don't
like,
get me
when
wrong
you,
though, silverware is silverware. Like, as in, for us, we would have loved to, for the men's side, to have won something. But I
yeah,
think the debate that kind of everyone was like, oh yeah, Tottenham have had a better season than Arsenal. I was like,
no,
wow. But then I guess it's because people base it off silverware. Whereas for me, I looked and I was like, well, our quality of football and our team is better than Spurs.
yeah.
Yet somehow we didn't get silverware, but also we were competing in a higher European competition. So
I was
like,
gonna say we
you know,
lost in the semi-finals of the Champions League after beating Real Madrid
yeah,
and then
mad.
lost to the team that eventually went on to win the competition. Like you
Hmm.
couldn't have played a better European team because they won the competition. So
So
yes,
true.
I understand. Man United got to a final, they lost. Tottenham got to a final, they won it. But the fact is like you were in a final against two teams that were struggling. Plus, you got to the situation where it's as you said, it's we're playing a higher level of football. Plus, look at where we finished in the league. We finished second in the league. That is incomparable to finishing in like the last two spaces other than getting relegated. You know what I mean? It
No,
doesn't
I hear it.
that doesn't match up. Same with Chelsea. Chelsea had a decent season, don't get me wrong. But yes, they won a European competition, but it's the Conference League against most teams that a lot of fans won't have heard of. Chelsea were pretty much expected to win that game, like win that tournament.
Hmm.
So I can understand them saying something. Fair enough. They finished in a decent position in the Premier
Yeah,
League. But if you're finishing in, like the bottom kind of five along who doesn't get relegated, I'm not hearing that
I feel like there's
because it's
always a lot of
just
people chatting about Arsenal, and obviously as Arsenal
yeah,
fans for like many years. I mean, you've literally, obviously, like you've just said, you've been born into it. We've
yeah.
had to face a lot of that chat, and I
It's
do
been
like,
rough.
especially like, oh my God, sorry, can we get the little little bit of merch? How much merch have you got? Because before we started recording, you were just showing. If you're listening on
um
Spotify right now, honestly, come over to the visual because Jamie has. Show us, come on, show and tell.
so okay, so I've got the
Actual
cup,
joke.
which I got when I was young. I have no idea where it came from, but it's just a
It looks
massive
really
cup
cute,
and
the
I like
shape of
it.
it. It's cute.
Yeah, no, I like it. I always used to have like drinks in here. I have a mat that I actually bought with you.
Yes.
Just it's Brazilian Arsenal. I kind of had to buy it. Another thing that you bought actually was this
Yes.
for Olivia, my daughter,
I was going to
which
say,
I
I
love
feel
it.
like we've started so. This is actually what we always do. We always start so many different conversations, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, right, like we need to actually finish some of these conversations. So I want to talk more about obviously the men's game later on this
Yeah.
episode, and obviously talk about why I got you that Gunnosaurus, which is due to the birth of your daughter like 6 months ago. I want to talk about that
Yeah.
later on, but I do just want to focus on you said when you talk about obviously the influences, the role models at Arsenal, and as a person of colour,
Yeah.
you feel more connected to the club, but especially the men's side. They bring out so many different kits, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's so good, like that you feel so seen. I know they did like the first kit that was tailored to just the women's side as well,
Yeah.
and no other clubs done that. And then they do it dedicated to different heritages, and I think it's really important to look on that.
Absolutely. So first things first, this year's new third kit, that white kit, I need to get it. Like
Oh,
that is
so
one of the
good.
most beautiful kits. I think this Arsenal Adidas combination is probably some of the best kits in the world.
Hmm.
People might disagree, but I just think they're so clean. So yeah, of course, this one, as I said, this one is like kind of links Africa, which, as you said, links back to Africa, links back to what I was saying before with the colours and everything. Also, I've got Urian timber on the back. Curacao represent with that. Dutch as well. Played for
Wait,
Ajax, which
actually, I was
is
going to say,
the
for
other team I
context as
support.
well,
It's
obviously I know the context of like the
yeah,
different countries you've lived in, the different languages you can speak, but just I
true.
don't know how you're going to quickly summarize it because there's a lot, but quickly sort of try summarize for anyone listening or watching who doesn't actually know much about you, just because I feel like it's
Um,
really interesting.
yeah, no, definitely. So I was born in Brazil, lived there for about 2.5 years, give or take. Then moved over to Amsterdam. Um, Spent pretty much my whole childhood there, going back to Brazil occasionally. Um, so I kind of, as I said, supporting Arsenal was something where I'd grown up supporting them, but when I went into Amsterdam, I kind of fell in love with Ajax. It's just,
Mm.
closest club to me, biggest club, fan base, everything. So as you can see, there's a lot of Arsenal Ajax crossovers. You see,
Yeah.
there's a lot. Um, but yeah, then I came here. I spent a bit of time in kind of Scandinavia. Just doing some work for a couple of clubs out there. But now I'm like properly based here in England, and yeah, so the kind of language is based around like Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, like
The
Swedish,
list just goes
Danish.
on, honestly.
Yeah, no, it really does.
But I think that's actually
And
perfect skill to have because when you're trying to, obviously, you're making that transition from growing up
mm,
playing football, loving football, being a fan of football, and now you're working in it. I feel like you're actually so qualified to work in multiple different countries, multiple different clubs. And also,
yeah,
even if you worked in an English club, say like Arsenal, you've got so many players, like you've obviously
there is that
mentioned, you're in
diversity. Yeah,
Timber, who you'd then be able to chat to loads of different. So I feel like it's actually set you up perfectly to work in football, all the different places you've lived in.
exactly. I mean, having done or played for and done work with teams like Heerenveen in Holland, teams like Ajax, teams like Brøndby, Copenhagen, Royal Glint, like it's really set me up in a good position. So yeah, back to what I was saying before was the context of that is the back of this shirt has Yuri and Timber on it,
Yeah,
which is,
sorry, I feel like we
ex-Ajax
keep jumping
player,
ahead.
ex-Ajax player, just something that, it resonated to me. So when I got the shirt, I knew I kind of had to get that. I do actually bring a couple of shirts with me that I just have.
Oh my
So
God, more
I
show
kind of
and
have,
tell.
I have like just like a base Arsenal shirt. I think this is
Nice.
2030. I want to say this is a lockdown shirt, but I'm not entirely sure.
No,
But
that's
I
cool.
think
I
it's just
couldn't tell you the
because
season, but
no,
classic.
I think it's just because also as an Arsenal fan, I want to have something that's red. A shirt that's red,
Yeah.
which probably doesn't fit me now. So back in the gym I go. Um,
Shut up.
right. Next one is this one. Absolutely love it. Um, was a
Nice.
very kind of difficult decision of what player to get because there was two. Gabriel Martinelli, who I did end up going to school with for a little bit. I have quite a good connection with him. But this was the season we just
Which is
signed
crazy, by
Jesus.
the way.
Yeah, I say that so nonchalant. Oh my gosh.
Like you're, thank you,
Um,
same. We're
yeah,
what, 12
so
minutes in and you're no,
um,
carry on, carry on.
so Jesus had literally just signed from Man City, massive
Yeah.
signing. Everyone was looking forward to it. It has turned out okay. It hasn't been, the best,
Yeah.
but I think especially when, seeing this shirt, I was like, I kind of have to get it because it's one of the main
It's called to
Brazilian,
mark the
like,
moment, definitely.
yeah, exactly, absolutely. And then the kind of most obvious one for me from Jamaica is this one, which
Yes.
I did actually buy in Jamaica,
Ooh.
which is it just has an even better feeling for it. Once again, need to go back to the gym 'cause I don't think it fits me, because otherwise I would be wearing it.
Jamie, stop.
Um, Trust me, I would have been wearing it otherwise. But it's literally just got Jamaica written on the back of it.
Okay, that's
Um,
cool.
I think it's genuinely a beautiful shirt as well. Like I genuinely
Mhm.
love it as a shirt.
I like how it's like
Um,
speckledy as well, like it fades in like the colours
yeah,
together. It looks
yeah.
really cool.
But as I said, this one I think I saw it in the shop and I think it was about £40 equivalent. And I was like, look, you can't actually get it in England anymore when I got it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to spend the money on it because it's such
Might as
a
well.
kind of yeah, it's such a special shirt in terms of there probably won't be an Arsenal Jamaica collaboration again, at least for a long time.
Hmm.
And while I can get it, while I have the chance, I might as well.
No, you might
Um,
as well spend it.
Exactly. But so yeah, these are kind of three kits alongside this one, the four kits that kind of stand out to me most because they've all got a kind of specific reason. Don't get me wrong, I still have a couple others. I have some training kits and stuff, but I think like the meanings behind each of these, having Arsenal as a club that is red predominantly, so having a red kit, then
Hmm.
having Gabriel Jesus as a landmark, I feel like it's one of the main signings in terms of like the start of this for the men's team at least, the kind of start of this. Kind of change in the Arsenal team, how we
Yeah.
went for a period that was awful, and then you brought in like Zinchenko, you brought in Jesus together, and I think that's why I got it. It's kind of a moment that stands out.
I really like how you've obviously brought in a show and tell, but it's also because it represents different part of your identity as well.
Yeah,
And then it
exactly.
also represents different parts of Arsenal's identity. Because, like you said, I think for me, when I see the red shirt, like this season, I don't know how anyone's going to be able to pick which shirt to pick out of the free ones because I love the
Yeah,
red shirt because I feel like that's such a classic. But then, like you said earlier, the third kit that's just been released this week, it's actually crazy because it's incorporating like they're so clever with the details because it's incorporating
yeah,
Highbury, but then it's also about the current like the present team, and I just
yeah,
think it's really nice how they've done different styles. They've done like a crop top as well. I think Alessia
yeah,
Russo was modeling, and it's really nice just to see the difference and like the diversity within that. But I do feel like Arsenal definitely are favourites by Adidas with all the kits we
yeah.
got. I do feel like
Or
we
like
lead.
also like the jackets and stuff. They
Yeah.
released like the varsity, they released track pants just out of
Hmm.
nowhere. You just see it. There is actually one more kit that I wanted to pick up on. I actually don't know where it is right now, but it is the
We'll just wait. You
Art.
go find it.
No, I'm not even gonna go. It's
No, I'm
the
joking.
Arsenal. I want to say it's the Arsenal third kit from not the season just gone, but the season before. That like yellow one, the kind of
Oh
yellow
yeah,
and black
yeah.
one. That at the beginning I hated, but I think once you started watching the players playing it, it was a really nice kit. So I actually did end up buying it
Yeah.
myself. But I think a lot of people hated it at the beginning. But I think
Hmm.
that's one of the most kind of out there kits that have actually worked for a team in recent time.
You know
You
what?
don't
I
really
do feel
see.
like that's sorry to cut you, but I do feel like
No, it's
that is
cool.
a common thing where you do see kits and you're like, oh, that's gross. Like sometimes when they're yellow, it's like,
Mm,
oh, they look like bananas, or just certain kits that like really stand out. That's the kit that I remember going to the game. Oh, really sad memory of us losing 1-0 against Liverpool, wasn't it? The women.
yeah.
And then you
And I was
wore that
wearing
kit
it.
and it was like a greeny yellow, like it was so bright. And everyone hated it, but then we suddenly saw it on players, and I was like, oh,
Mm.
like when you put it on someone and they're playing with it, I think how they play as well does affect whether the kit's actually nice or not.
I
So
mean, you kept calling me a steward, which was a bit harsh.
I literally felt like one of the stewards was literally next to me. I remember recording you and recording them, and I was like, spot the difference. Like honestly,
um, yeah, I think it's probably a good time to move over to the women's team as well because as you said, like one of the main things got us kind of going to games was the women's team.
no, definitely,
Which, as you said, I think I'm trying to think. The first women's game you took me to would have been at the Emirates for Juventus,
yes,
and the reason I remember it is because Miedemar scored and we missed it.
yep. I feel like
It
that's
had to
always it.
happen.
It's like don't go to the toilet, don't get drinks, just sit in your seat and just stay there because you're
Yeah,
gonna end up missing something, basically.
no, absolutely.
Lesson
But
was learned that day.
since then, we haven't missed anything.
No, that is true. That is true. And also, obviously, talking about the women's game, um,
Mm,
before we actually talk about the squad as a whole and getting all those memories, obviously, you've just been showing me like your shopping haul of shirts, and I feel like recently you probably had to pay a lot more on clothes because obviously you've got Olivia, your daughter's now
yeah,
come into the world. How has that maybe changed? Obviously, firstly, parenthood, like that's something obviously I can't relate to, but like I listen to podcasts and obviously it does change, like fatherhood does change how you look at
yeah.
life, and obviously you want to protect her and everything. But how has it changed your view of the game, especially the women's game, having a daughter now?
I think that there's a couple of main things that stand out for me. So first things first, she's already got two Arsenal kits, and
Nice,
that's not
as you should.
changing. No other club, don't care.
Mm-mm.
That's how it is. So the first thing I'm going to pick up on, I think, is when we went to the last game we went to, which was a Lyon game at home, and there was someone there who was in front with a baby.
Yeah.
And I think in the women's game, it's so much more accessible and just a nicer environment to bring a baby. which is definitely something over the next kind of 6 months to a year. Something I want to do is try and bring her to a game
Gosh, that's so
because I was
exciting.
looking at the men's preseason games now, but I was just thinking, you know, the environment is 50. I know it's a friendly, but it can always be 50-50 in men's games. Whereas no matter what women's game you go to, it could be Chelsea, it could be Tottenham, it could literally be, like London City, for example. It could be anybody, but you're going to get a good atmosphere,
Mhm.
and
But
you
also,
know that there's not going to be any problems or anything.
I was going to say, I think also from you, because you have that obviously paternal instinct now, that you're going
Mm,
to be so protective that you want your child to be safe. And I think obviously when we were
yeah,
sat at that Leon game and we looked over and the kid had like little headphones on and
yeah,
everything, so like sound wise they were all great. But also yes, you stand up at moments and yes, you're chanting, but firstly it's a good way I guess to just get them into the game, but also
yeah,
it's a more controlled setting where people around, like we noticed straight away there was a baby and we'd be more respectful. Whereas I feel like if
yes.
there were pints being chucked, or just I don't know, I feel like the atmosphere, not to be too stereotypical of the men's game, but it can
No, I
be
can
rowdy. So I
completely
do
agree.
get
I feel
completely
like
safety
the
reasons.
the men's game can get more aggressive, whereas in the women's game, the fans don't. Yeah, you get, as you said, you get fans shouting and stuff, but
Hmm.
actually, there's a difference between shouting vigorously and then shouting, like passionately, and I think that's something that kids pick up on. Kids
Yeah.
know when you're angry. Kids know when you're excited, and singing North London Forever, for example. Yeah, you're shouting, you're singing, but it's passionate. It's not
Mhm.
like you're trying to argue with someone. It's not like you're, attacking someone per se. Which I think is definitely something that I want to bring her to a game. As I said, just to get her there, I think also it'd be so cool having her in an Arsenal shirt at a game.
No, yeah,
Would just be
definitely. And
fun.
but also the thing is now I did find it crazy that she's been alive for what, 6 months, and in
Yeah.
those 6 months she's seen um Arsenal women lift a Champions League trophy, which is crazy. She's also seen the Lioness as well,
Yeah.
which is obviously part of her identity, like win another European
Yeah.
competition. I mean, I say she's seen it, she's obviously a baby, like she's not really aware, but
No,
it's
she did
still
watch the games though, to be fair. She watched the games, so she's seen
you're
it.
forcing her, you're like, you will watch this game.
She likes watching football, to be fair. I put her on my lap, watch football, any football, and she's just like, yeah, sure, I like it.
No, that's
She
actually
does
so.
enjoy it.
I feel like honestly how you're raising her already, like I'm so excited to see how who she turns out to be, if that makes sense, because I feel
Yeah.
like she's got such positive influences, and obviously I'm talking from like a football perspective, but it sort of
Mm.
translates into everything in life, because if you're treating both the men's and women's game equally and you respect them both for their own sort of vibe, then she's going to translate that into like different jobs and different things in life,
Oh,
and I think
absolutely, yeah.
is so
I
important. But
mean,
also the third thing that she's alive, been alive for, is the £1 million signing of Olivia Smith. And I just found it
yeah,
crazy. I think I texted you straight away because I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
it's Olivia, literally Olivia, Olivia. She could get Olivia on her shirt, you know?
That's what I'm saying. We've got a Brazil shirt with Olivia on it actually,
Nice.
and she was wearing that the other day in the Copa America final. I don't know if you
Yes.
saw it between Colombia 4-4, one of the best
Marta,
games I think
yeah.
I've ever seen. March
I
at
was, oh my gosh,
38.
yes, she's been alive for that. That's what I was going to say. Marta,
Yeah,
I actually don't think she'll ever retire, like at this point.
I don't think we're ever going to get a better player. I
Mm-mm.
think at the moment, in terms of not just women's football, men's football, in terms of someone that's done so much for the game. And yeah, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Messi, but the impact Marta has off the pitch as well as on the pitch is
Yeah.
absolutely outstanding. And at 38, to be scoring the quality of goals she did, plus actually playing at the level in a international like final is ridiculous.
She's still the best player on the pitch, and I'm like, you're
Yeah,
literally nearly 40. Like, this is crazy
yeah,
to think. But like you said, just by her actually then being on the pitch, she's not,
mm,
she's helping so many people because she's showing, firstly, women can do it. Firstly, women
yeah,
who aren't born in England and raised in the WSL setup. Because I
hmm,
feel like people are so focused on how the WSL is women's football and like women's football's rising because the WSL is doing well. And I'm like, no, because there's so
yeah,
many teams around the world. So she's representing those as well. And yeah, I just feel like what she's doing is amazing. So it's so good that Olivia's
absolutely.
got role models like her growing up with.
Yeah, but also not. She's not even just some. Yeah, she comes on and plays, but it's like Thiago Silva, where it's not even just someone who comes on the pitch and is there. They are making actual impacts in the game.
Hmm.
Because you think about it, without her in that final, Brazil probably would have lost. So,
Oh, yeah.
she's come on, or she's there, not just, oh, because she's Marta, she's a big name. She's there because she has still got the quality to turn the game around and win the game for them,
No,
which
literally,
is
she
what
created
I like to
something out of
see.
nothing.
Exactly. That's what I
So,
like to
so
see.
good.
And I think that comes on to my next point, actually, with what you asked me, was I feel like a lot of the time, I think one of the main kind of hurdles for kids, especially girls, can be, from people I've spoken to, can be
Yeah.
actually parents. Um, and that's not at all saying that parents are bad, but what it is in terms of, look, if you have a kid who wants to go into football, there's gonna be a lot of difficulties in that, in terms of having to go around, you've got to work out work arrangements, you've got to work out living, because you still got to pay bills and stuff. You can't just, take days off to take kids to training, take kids to matches. But I think having parents who, it's not even about having the ability to do it, but actually try to find ways to get the kids into football is the
Mhm.
most important thing. So, for example, one of the things I was reading recently, which was really interesting, was I was reading an article on the lack of kind of ethnic diversity in the England women's team.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, what that stemmed from when people did some research was actually the parents of the white players were almost more accepting of them going into football as a career, whereas ethnic minorities or ethnic diversities here actually didn't want them going into football because they didn't see that as an actual career for women or like a prosperous career, which is, I think, something that, look, if you have a kid who wants to play football, is showing that they want to and has quality, I don't see why I should end up being, a problem for that or a milestone. As we said before, being a female footballer, especially then being of an ethnic diversity, you've got your own challenges that you're going to face. And I don't think a parent should just be another challenge on top.
No, definitely. I think it's so important and it's so encouraging to hear you speak like that because I know you're not going to be the only parent out there as well, who thinks like this. And it's so, so important because obviously Olivia, because she is a woman of colour, she will be facing that intersectionality where both
Mm,
gender and race becomes almost a barrier in society. So
yeah,
then the fact that she'll face it externally, like there's nothing sadly you can do because it's so systemic. Um,
yeah,
but by you not being an extra barrier, that's so important because then it means that she
exactly.
can reach the top level of the game. And I mean, we've seen players like Michelle Adjuman, Lauren James in the Lionesses being crucial players, especially Michelle Adjuman at such a young age.
Yeah.
And she's obviously a Gooner as well. I feel like Olivia's gonna luckily and like deservedly grow up where she can see herself in players and it's so important.
Of course. And I think that's the thing for me. I think the main thing for me is if she doesn't like football, care about it, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all. But I want to be able to give her the opportunity to get into it and try and see role models who resemble her. Having Olivia Smith come into Arsenal as somebody who is not just black but is kind of mixed heritage or kind of, like my kind of colour is
Hmm.
something that is so important because, for example, with me, let's take being at university, there are groups of people there are the white group and there's a black group. I feel like sometimes for me, I found it difficult to integrate to go, where do I go? Because
Hmm.
sometimes you could be seen as too black for one, but too white for the other.
Because you have that dual heritage, you identify with
Exactly.
both, but then, like you said, you feel like you're not enough to fit in both. And I feel like this
Exactly.
is sort of moving away slightly, but I
Yeah.
listen to a lot of Loyal Kana, and I feel like he obviously is from like he's got dual heritage, and he's spoken a lot about how exactly that experience of obviously I can't personally relate to it, I'm just basing it off someone
Yeah,
else's
no, of
words, but
course.
he's obviously said how you don't really know which box to fit in, and also I think it's important, even more so, that we're seeing people not only just in football in general, but in positions where they're on screens and showing themselves of a
Yeah.
mixed heritage because it's so important to see that yeah, you don't have to fit into these boxes. And I mean, even obviously, it's not just Olivia Smith who signed this summer. We've got Taylor Hines, who
Mm.
is our defender, and she
Yeah,
is of Jamaican heritage as well. And I think it's so,
yeah,
so important because there has been that worry recently where Arsenal men, yes, they're, like you said earlier, have always represented multiple identity,
yeah,
whereas Arsenal women have become known as a blonde FC. And for someone like me,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
blonde, so I relate to it. I see myself. If you can see it, you can be it, and I feel seen. But then I look to my friends of color, and I'm like, oh, but there's not enough representation.
yeah.
And I feel like it's so good that now we're able to slowly get in people who aren't just white, blonde, blue eyes. We're
Yeah.
actually
Well, I mean,
expanding out. It's really important.
I think having a Swedish coach definitely brought in a lot of Swedish players. And we
Mhm.
did get a couple who were kind of like Swedish Moroccan, Swedish Algerian, but a lot of it was kind of the typical kind of Swedish blonde, blue
Yeah.
hair, blue-eyed. But then, two of the players that stand out most in the Arsenal women's team for me would be, first of all, Alex Scott. I think
Hmm.
one of the most main standouts as a British woman who is of multi-heritage, who is continuing to do massive things, not just, in terms of football, but in terms of journalism. It's massive what
Yeah.
she's doing. And then, of course, Gabrielle, who was Brazilian, came into the Arsenal team, played brilliantly, and it's just someone you can connect with.
No,
I feel
definitely.
like, other than these two, it's quite difficult sometimes to pick out players, as you said, who were who are of like that kind of multi-heritage. If I looked at in the women's team now, people that would stand out to me, as you said, would be Taylor Hines, would be Kafaji, but then that's it. Maybe the only other one I could think of is, Mariana Caldente, but that's because she's
Mhm.
Spanish. But other than that, yeah, it is pretty much all, as you said, blonde hair, blue-eyed. It's difficult. And also the other thing as well, everyone's European. When you look at some of the best players in the world who are South American, African, to see a massive club only having European players does make you think why. And it's not just Arsenal, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other clubs. I know Man United have it as well. But then you
Yeah.
look at Chelsea and you go, okay, well, why is Chelsea's team so good? We've got here Jamaican, we've got Australian, Canadian, USA,
Hmm.
um, Japanese. They've got such a mix. Yeah, Colombian. They've got such a mix of players who aren't just European. And I think that's where the women's game does need to start expanding a bit
Hmm.
because we see a lot of the English clubs have English players or European players. And that's not just by like kind of how do you say it? It's not by choice. It's just more in terms of it's more accessible.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more expensive to buy a player from Brazil, for example, even though we've got the quality. Because when you look at players who are coming into England, and once again names have gone completely out of my head, which is getting really annoying now. But like Caroline, who went into Manchester City,
Yeah.
look how good
I say,
she
I think she
started for
was like
them.
your favorite player. You spoke a lot about her last
Yeah,
season.
I mean, I've spoken with her recently. Two of the best players in that Man City team, realistically, Khadija Shaw, who's Jamaican, and Caroline,
Yeah.
who's Brazilian. These are two players who have come to England and have continued the quality that we've seen outside of
Hmm.
England. And I think that's where for Brazilians, this is someone you can look up to in the English game. For Jamaicans, Khadija Shaw is someone you can absolutely look up to. And I feel like the more you bring the players from other parts of the world to here, the better the quality is going to be, which then leads into, World Cups. You get
Yeah.
different countries qualifying for World Cups. The Jamaican national team is now qualified for two World Cups in a row, might qualify for the next because players have started going to bigger leagues, more money, more investment, and you're building a nation, not just a player or a club,
Yeah. No, it's
which
so
is
it's
what's
so
good to
true.
see.
And I think it's so obviously like we've said, it's so important to try and diversify the squads because it's going to benefit everyone. Like I don't see why there should be that barrier there because it literally will benefit everyone. And like you said, we've already seen it benefiting so many teams. And I'm just excited that Arsenal is now on that journey. And I'm hoping that next season we can progress more. I also obviously you mentioned a few names there, like you mentioned Alex Sort and Gabrielle, and I just want to
Yeah.
like know are these because when I've mentioned like favorite Arsenal moments that I want to talk about and favorite Arsenal
Mm.
players. Are these two players that you're like they're your favorite of all time, your favorite right now, or do you have any other names?
I think when I'm looking at the women's game specifically, I think the two names that stand out to me are these two players. And I think that is one of the main reasons is because it's two people that I can connect with the most.
Yeah.
Alex Scott is one of the most decorated women's footballers in England.
Hmm.
Gabrielle, of course, having that Brazilian root is so helpful. But then when I look at it as well, players like Miedema, who played at Arsenal, is someone who was so good and played so well. As I said, having that Dutch did help.
Yeah.
However, I think she is somebody who, as I said, from quality stood out. And I think when I look at English players as well, someone like Beth Mead, who's someone who I've done work with before, I've interviewed her, I've done some pieces of work with her, couldn't meet a nicer player.
Hmm.
But honestly, seeing what she does for not just Arsenal but England, the Euros that was happening here, that she was crucial in that. And I
Yeah.
think the
Especially the
fact
first
that,
time England brought it home, she was the player
yeah,
of the tournament. Like she was the moment,
it,
basically, in that.
exactly. And then she went and suffered the ACL injury,
Yeah.
which was literally the exact same time as Miedema, which
Hmm.
really, you could tell it really affected Arsenal because two of the best players who had just had two breakout seasons
Hmm.
both then suffered ACL injuries. You really couldn't get it worse, could you?
No, definitely,
But
definitely.
I
And then
think
looking
they're
to the
kind of.
men's side as well, because obviously there's a few names for
Mm,
the women's. Looking to the men's side, is there anyone that obviously you've mentioned a few people that you've really either identified with or you've just loved how they've played football from the time that you've
yeah.
watched it?
So when I think of current players, um, I'm gonna just name a couple. So Tommy Setford, who is one of our goalkeepers, who I actually played with him in Holland, which is kind of, one of the reasons why, which is one of the reasons why I wanted him to play in that game that we went to, the
Yeah.
EFL Cup game. He was going to be the goalkeeper, but he was injured, so he didn't end up playing. We played Porter, who was brilliant, but it would have been nice to have one of my old goalkeepers there.
That
Um,
would have been mad, full circle.
Well, exactly. Of course, going off like Brazilian and Dutch, you've got Gabriel, you've got Timber, who is ex-Ajax as well, stands out to me. I think players like, Saka, of course, because he is literally homegrown, couldn't meet a nicer, more humble footballer,
Hmm. He
and
comes
the
across really
quality
well.
is, yeah, his quality is absolutely incredible. Of course, looking at Martinelli, someone who I know personally, like, having that once again, such a humble guy, such a nice guy.
Hmm.
Um, I think the other two that stand out to me for this current team, which is really interesting, Ethan Waneri, I think
Yeah.
one of the main ones, absolutely brilliant, young player, mixed heritage, which is something that I think is important.
Hmm.
But the other one that stands out to me is Reece Nelson.
Okay.
And that's because
Interesting.
I played with him when I was there.
Of course you did.
But it's that no, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason. That's one of the main reasons because in terms of mixed heritage, he's one of the first English players at Arsenal in recent times that I remember kind of breaking through into the first team. And of
Hmm.
course, he's gone out on loan. He's gone out to other clubs. But I think he's one of the main ones. We had like Iwobi as well, who was another one. You
Hmm.
had Maitland Niles, who's another one. But both of them were seen classed as black players with kind of African heritage, but being British. Whereas he's one of the first ones who are kind of Caribbean heritage, seen as British, which I
Okay.
think in recent times is something that has stood out quite a lot to me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But then if I had to talk about like my favorite players at Arsenal, I think the first one that comes to mind is Santi Cazorla.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
think for the
God, that's
short for the short period we had him, he was incredible.
hmm. I just remember
Like
playing
for
with
the
him on FIFA. Like back in the day. I just that's what I remember.
yeah, no, I just what he did for football in terms of the quality he had is incredible.
Hmm.
Honestly, there is so many players that have played for Arsenal that I just that I've
You list them
enjoyed
all.
watching. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even like, play for example, I had a conversation like this with my friend. He was like, "Oh, but you weren't alive, like you weren't there to watch these players." But that doesn't mean you can't like them. So players like Bergkamp, Henry are so kind of, you know, spoken about. They're so well known.
Hmm.
But then you've also got like Michael Thomas, who played alongside Ian Wright, absolutely incredible player.
Hmm.
Um, I really enjoyed David Luiz at Arsenal. I think it wasn't his best football, but I think having the leadership qualities that he had, I think it was massive. And I think, knowing that this is someone who's won basically everything, I think him playing at Arsenal was massive. Um,
Yeah, so I feel like you're an Arsenal fan, pretty
yeah,
much.
exactly.
You've listed so many, and to be fair, it's so true because I feel like, especially with the men's game, you don't actually have to have been alive. You can go back and watch recordings, and
Yeah.
you can look back and see just how they impact the game. Like I've seen clips of Henry, and I was like, oh my God, he's literally unreal. But then I don't know, you kind of just like think, oh, but I wasn't actually alive, or I was alive, but I
Yeah.
wasn't actually watching it because for me, I'm more of a recent Arsenal men's fan, but it's just still so
Mm.
good to be able to watch it. Um, and now, like, sort of, we've touched upon the women's side about like
Yeah.
last season, but I want to look ahead to next season. How are you feeling about it as a whole? Because obviously you've mentioned all the new signings that have come in. Are you feeling
Yeah.
more confident? I mean, we've won a Champions League, which is, I think we were both just as shocked as each other, but that's
Honestly,
confident.
I think this is where you see the kind of smartness from women's football fans. They don't go over to Chelsea going, "We've had a better season because we've won a European competition."
Hmm. I mean,
Do you know what I
I say it
mean?
as a joke, but yes, don't
No,
actually.
yeah, of course. But in terms of like actually meaning it, like
Yeah.
I feel like as like women's fans, you're more sensible. That's just how it is because
Hmm.
you have just more sensible opinions, I think. But I think one of the main things I think this season is, first of all, I think we need to be getting back into latter stages of Champions League. Not winning it again necessarily, but at least getting to, semi-finals, final is something that Arsenal want to do. I think this season, it's annoying because Chelsea are so strong even without adding to their squad. But I think if I was to pick any other club to follow up Chelsea and say a team that's actually going to fight for a title, I would choose Arsenal.
That's
I
what I like
think
to hear. Honestly, I
I think
agree.
Man City going forward is devastating, but I just think defensively they're not that great.
Hmm.
I think Man United once again defensively is a bit 50-50. I think Arsenal's the kind of only team that I can look at and go from defense, midfield, attack. It is just continuously quality.
Hmm.
And I
Don't get me
think
wrong.
the only
I was
yeah,
about to say,
so
I do think that last season, our defensive qualities, you sort of could tell that Leah came back from her ACL and she hadn't
mm,
been on top form. And I think the game that she really came out like and proved it were both actually twice, were both finals for club and country. She really proved
yeah.
why she should be that centre back and obviously vice captain or captain, respectively. And I think, yeah, it is just so important
I
that we're
think
building that squad.
goalkeeper as well is another one that I think Arsenal might need a backup goalkeeper. Not saying that it's not good enough, but I think if you want to strengthen, it's one place you can. Um, I'm just
Well,
looking
we
up here
did
because I
sign.
did.
Yeah, I was going to say we did sign another keeper, but like you said, I think it's
Yeah,
important because DVD. I think well, when we went to that game at the Emirates,
she looks
the
shaky.
yeah, like is it? I think it was hard because she was having an like she was suffering from like an ankle injury, I think it was, and then she missed out on a game, and then we nearly didn't go through to the final and ended
Yeah,
up winning it because then we had Zinsberger in. So I'm happy that we've built squad depth, and I do feel like we've built squad depth in quite a few areas for both the men and women, to be fair. But
yeah.
it's
I mean,
good to hear you're positive.
what's I've just seen some news here, which is Leah Volti looks like she's going to have to go through another surgery,
Yeah.
which is going to be a loss to Arsenal because she's great as a midfielder. I think the midfield at Arsenal, we have three players who can play there, but the rotation we have is as good as who can play. And I
Mhm.
think, this is where when you're looking at the new season and you've already got a player out injured who could be out for a couple of months, it's
Yeah.
just not what you want. Do you know what I mean? You kind of want to go into a new season with everyone fit, everyone looking forward to it. And I think it does bring up the question in terms of, do players play too many games? It's
Hmm.
always spoken about, but to finish a league season, go and play a Champions League final, and then just under a month later go and play a whole Euros, it's tough. Do you know what I
And then
mean? The
they've
footballing schedule
literally,
is rough.
they're all back in training as well now.
Back in
But one,
pre-season now, yeah.
and like it's actually crazy, but one thing that is filling me with confidence for both the men and women's is that obviously we're going to be competing in lots of competitions, but I feel like we're starting to get that squad depth and we're starting to get the players
Yeah.
in certain positions where maybe we lacked the last few seasons, and that's why with the women's side we
Mm.
relied too heavily on the likes of Leah Williamson, or we relied too heavily on DVD, and then when she got injured, it caused an issue. Same with the men's, we relied so heavily on Saka, and then
Yeah.
the minute he faced injury, we were like, oh, let's put Waneri there. Let's try and like move people about, and then we'll put Marino up top. Like we were sort of
Yeah.
just worrying.
I
But
think the
looking for
main
the
thing for
men,
Arsenal men is the
yeah, I was
men
going
is
to say,
we haven't had a proper striker since Jesus, and Jesus
mhm,
is a winger, not a striker. He's
that's
started
true.
off as a winger, got put in that Man City team because they had better wingers.
Hmm.
He's not going to get into this Arsenal team as a winger. What do? We wait 3 seasons. We went and bought Havertz. Havertz turned out decent as a striker.
All
We
right, but
bought
then he got
Marino as a
injured.
midfield. Exactly. We bought Marino as a midfielder. Ended up tucking him up front. Martinelli can play up front. I don't know why we don't do that because he plays well. We finally got out and actually shown that we have issues that we're going to face. We needed a backup winger for Saka or Martinelli. We brought in Madueke. We got rid of Partey and Jorginho. We ended up bringing in Norgard and Zubimendi. And we needed a striker, and we got Victor Gyökeres.
Hmm.
If we got Eze on top of that, I think this is one of the best ever windows from any Premier League club. Maybe bar Liverpool because they are just being stupid now. Like
Yeah.
the amount of money they're spending is ridiculous. But I think this is already Arsenal's best transfer window by far. And I think
Mhm.
if you look at if we brought in Eze on top of that, I think this team should be winning a Premier League if it's not for Liverpool. And I think they will be the two teams challenging for it.
With that as well, I completely agree that we've got that squad depth. It's been our best window because we're not just buying players like because there's loads of money and it looks good on us. We're buying players that actually fit into our system and
Yeah.
areas we need to cover. But
I
you're
forgot
obviously
Kepa as
saying,
well,
yeah,
sorry.
oh
Kepa as a
yeah,
backup goalkeeper for 5 million is incredible.
yeah, I was going to say
Like just
pretty
putting
good.
it
And
out there.
we saw him save like what was it, like a hat trick of saves in that
Yeah.
penalty shootout as well out in the Asia tour. So he's proved to be promising. But I think because of this, like you said, there is that pressure on winning the Premier League. Do you think
Mhm.
that if we don't win the Premier League or the Champions League, then Arteta's got to go because it's been
I,
so many years now?
I think if we don't win something, and I think
Okay.
something includes Carabao Cup at this point, because as you said, a lot of fans, media focus on what you win, not what you do. So, for
Yeah.
example, yes, we've gone for a rebuild and finished twice, 3 times in a row. But you look at the last time we lost to Man City, VAR took out 6 points from Arsenal that would have won the league. You look
Hmm.
at last season, VAR was in favour of Liverpool for pretty much everything. You look at, but then you go and look at, yeah, you've got teams like Newcastle winning, what was it? They won the Carabao Cup. You look at Crystal Palace winning an FA Cup. You look at Tottenham winning the Europa League. These are 3 teams that don't normally win trophies that would arguably have had a better season than Arsenal because they've won something.
Yeah. So
Which
you're saying
I,
as long as we win like an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, then Arteta keeps his job and the club is happy. Because to be fair, I just want to
yeah,
see the players lifting a trophy the same way we've been
yeah,
seeing for the last few seasons. The women's side have lifted the League Cup, and we were like, it's a League Cup, but at least it's something. It stopped Chelsea doing
yes,
the
that's what I mean.
quadruple. But
It's
then we suddenly got
taken,
that Champions League, and it was amazing. So you're saying that it's silverware
yeah,
still.
it's silverware is as we said with Tottenham. Tottenham win a Europa League and go, we've had a better season than Arsenal because they've
Mhm.
won a trophy. I feel like everything is worked off what have you won, as I said, not what you have done. So yes, we've had a great rebuild, we've got a good team, but if this team is not going to win anything, first of all, the players are going to want to leave because
Yeah.
players like Saliba and Gabriel are in their prime, Saka, Martinelli, they're going to want to leave because they want to go somewhere where their career actually shows. But also, as fans, we want, as you said, you want to see the players you love, you want to see your club lifting a trophy.
Mm.
We've got the most ever FA Cups, for example, out of any other club. but you want to see them winning it again. The fact
Yeah.
that the last time we won it was 5 years ago in a season that was broken in half because of the pandemic is ridiculous because we had the quality to win the Premier League for the last 4 years. And that's why we finished second. It's just that final push or that final thing that Arsenal haven't had, which I think is the most important thing.
But what do you think that is? What do you think Arsenal have that makes them have that final step over that final hurdle?
I think if you compare that first season we finished second to now, I think we have grown as fans, players, coaches, and manager. I think everyone is more intelligent, is more wiser. I think the next thing on top of that is I think the players are hungry. The players, you can tell they want to win.
Yeah.
Like, imagine as fans, right? We're saying they finished second 3 times in a row. Imagine as a player knowing you're that close to winning
Yeah.
a Premier League, and what stopped you is maybe one performance or one wrong VAR decision. Going into any game is if you outscore the other opposition, you win the game. Doesn't matter how good your defense is, how good if you score more than them, you win the game. And I think we have the ability to do that to any club, maybe by Liverpool. But I think we need to win something this season. And I think the Premier League is going to be tough because Man City are strong, Liverpool are strong. I think Arsenal are probably the second or third favourite out of those three. I would say maybe Chelsea, depending on how they actually play. We haven't seen it.
Their squad's quite young, but promising.
Exactly. But at the same time, they've just won a Club World Cup. They've won a massive trophy. I think Arsenal need to win. I think an FA Cup builds so much confidence. If we went and won an FA Cup, it would build so much. This is why I would almost want us to have been able to go into the Europa League. Because I think if we went into the Europa League now, we win it easily.
Yeah.
I think the Champions League is difficult because it is Europe's elite.
But I think winning that brings so much more gratitude, like success.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a bigger thing to win.
I think we should have beaten PSG. This is just the straight up thing is we should have beaten Paris Saint-Germain. Like they didn't play that well. We should have beaten them, and I think it's frustrating that we didn't. But what I would say is this year, I think, as I said, Premier League, Champions League is doable. I don't know if it's exactly 100%, but I would say an FA Cup is the minimum we have to win. And the Carabao Cup is something we have to get to, at least get to the final.
Yeah. No, definitely. Completely.
An FA Cup and Carabao Cup, we haven't even got to the final in the last 4 years to have lost the final. So you haven't even, we can't even say we've got close because we haven't gotten to a final. Liverpool, yeah, they won the league, but either way, they got to a Carabao Cup final as well.
No, it's true.
You look at it, Man City finished worse than Arsenal, but got to a cup final. So I feel like it's all based on what you do, and I think Carabao Cup and FA Cup is the minimum that we need to. Because I think if we just won the Carabao Cup but then finished in fourth, I think Arteta gets sacked.
Yeah, I think we have to compete in multiple competitions to a higher level, and I think obviously we've literally come second, and then we've got to the semi-final, but we need to have one piece of silverware and then nearly get silverware in another competition. So yeah,
we can't drop out the top three. I think if we drop out the top three, no matter what happens, unless we win something, I think he's gone.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a very valid point. Very valid point. Sadly, I think for him, he's got a lot of pressure on him, but I think pressure is where diamonds are made, and I do think we could hopefully get that silverware. When this episode is posted, it will literally be like a week or a few days before our first game of the season against Man United. How are you feeling going into that game, just focusing purely on that game?
So, sorry, one more thing I wanted to pick up on real quick was, something that if Arteta was to leave, I don't know who comes in to replace him. Just my last point on that. I can't think of another manager who can do a better job.
Exactly. I think he's so like how he interacts. No. Honestly, I'm literally saying. I think how he. This is why we literally, whenever we have a catch up, we talk for like years and years, and then it's like
for hours. Yeah.
I'll go home. It's dark now. But no, honestly, I think with Arteta, it is so tricky to think of who is better right now. But there's a point where we can't have other clubs and other fans keep mocking us because we don't have silverware. So it's like the women are able to do it. Come on, guys, like you've got to get it
Exactly.
together. But do you think that will get our season off to a great start against United? That we'll be able to get that silver at the end?
I'm confident. I'm not worried about Man United.
Okay.
I'm not worried about many clubs, to be honest with you. I think the two clubs I'm mainly worried about, I think, is Man City and Liverpool because they
Yeah.
are two tough games. I think the only other game I would put in that would be the kind of Chelsea game and the Tottenham game because they're both good quality, but I think it's the rivalry that puts a bit of pressure on it.
Yeah. The derby
Especially that
definitely. I think.
Chelsea one. Especially, I think Tottenham we're better than them. Full stop. I'm not worried. The Chelsea one, because they've got such a mix of players, it could go 50-50. And I think they're the only other club that I think the derby could kind of push on top a bit. You know what I mean? It can get a bit overwhelming. But honestly, yes, going back to the Man United game, I'm not worried about Man United. They really haven't changed much from last season. They've they've brought in Mbeumo, they've brought in Cunha. Yes, good signings going forward, but going forward wasn't the issue. Their issue was defensively, and they haven't got any better defenders. So
Mhm.
realistically,
I mean,
I'm
yeah.
looking I'm I'm looking at it going, we've strengthened in goalkeeper, defense, attack, and midfield. They've only strengthened in attack, but their main problem was they conceded too many goals.
hmm No, definitely.
So
I think you're
I'm
right
not
to
worried.
be confident because, like you said, they haven't made too many
Mm.
changes. Also, I don't know if you watched it. I saw highlights from the West Ham United friendly that happened
Mhm.
like few weeks back,
Yeah,
and it was literally they just rely so heavily on Bruno, and I'm like, you can't rely so
they look
heavily on one
lethargic.
player,
Yeah,
and
but they
that's
drew
almost
2-2 with Everton the other day as well. They look lethargic
oh,
in that as well. To be honest with you,
yeah, like as in it's just
they looked poor.
they're just not looking how the historical United look. And that's the thing with Arsenal.
Yeah,
I don't want us to become where we keep deteriorating so much that it's like, can you actually rely on your history the way that United fans are like, yeah, but we were
yeah.
once the best. It's like, yeah, but you've been not the best for so many years now. And I
Well,
think
what we've
that's
got is
what we started
Invincibles.
to do.
I feel like we're getting to the point where the Invincibles is falling off now. Like you can't
Yeah,
use that. It's been 21 years since that. Yes, it's the biggest achievement in Premier League history, but you need something to back it up. Do you know what I
no,
mean? You
definitely.
need something. But I think the other thing as well for me is we have brought in the the top goal scorer in the whole world. Like people are looking at it going, yeah, he played in Portugal, this and that, whatever. But Gyökeres has scored the most goals this calendar year
Mhm.
than any other player on the planet.
Also, it
So
annoys me when people say, as in, I do understand that there are different leagues around the world,
yeah,
but he is not just competing and playing all right. He is playing so well. And we've seen him beat City. He got a hat trick when he played
yeah.
against City in the Champions League. So I feel
But
like
that's
he
what
can
annoys
compete.
me. That's what annoys me. If he went and signed for Liverpool or Man City or Chelsea,
Hmm
everyone would be saying brilliant signing. The fact that it's he's joined Arsenal, you can see the hatred coming through and going, yeah, but he played in Portugal.
Yeah.
Just because he played in Portugal, for me, he should be winning a Ballon d'Or, or at least the no, not Ballon d'Or. Sorry, the like best striker. I don't know what it's called.
I don't know. For a second, when you said
Um,
Parenthood, I was like, oh, okay. Like, as in, I don't know
no,
if I
no,
get
no,
it
no.
that
It's
far, but who's to say?
Mbappe won it over him. Mbappe, which I don't necessarily agree with because this guy's continuously been good all season.
Mhm.
Yes, it is a lower league, but he's been doing it in Europe as well. As you
Also,
said, a hat trick against Man City.
I wasn't expecting his like I was watching highlights because I don't follow the Portuguese league
Mm,
closely. Like I'm not that zoned in, so I was like, oh, I don't know too much about him. So I was watching some clips, and his physicality, like
yeah,
he has such a broad frame, and I think up top you can just tell when he's in the box, he just sees the goal. Like he's not
it
thinking,
reminds
oh,
you of Haaland almost. Like Haaland has that. He uses his
I
body
was about to say that.
to
Yeah,
get in front of players. You know what I mean? And I think that's what he does.
I feel
It
like
does help that he's massive as well. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, no,
It does
exactly.
help
It's
that he's massive.
almost like a rugby player build, but I think it's
Yeah.
I was going to make that comparison of how he almost is more like Haaland. And I know when Hoyland went to United, everyone
Mm,
was like, "Oh yeah, he's going to be the next Haaland." And firstly, that put way too much pressure on him. He was too young, and he obviously
yeah.
hasn't fulfilled those expectations, which were quite unrealistic. But I think for Gyökeres, I do feel like he can compete, and I am very excited about the season as a whole. And I feel like yeah, we've yapped for like an hour or something about obviously Arsenal as a whole, but I'm happy that you're just as confident than I am. Maybe a bit delusional. If you're not an Arsenal fan and you're watching this right now, you're probably, or you're listening and you're probably like, what is going on? But I'm hoping that, yeah, the season plays out how we're expecting it to. It just sort of depends in the next few weeks, the first few games, to get a bit of a taster. But I'm very
Yeah.
excited. But I just want to end this episode, how I'm going to end each episode, with a little bit of a game, little bit of a quiz. And the first sort of like thing I want you to do is to create, because this is obviously the Arsenal Humans podcast, well, the fan zone, I want you to create your ultimate Arsenal human. So any player, any Arsenal player in history, current, past player, that men or women, and just create, so like what left foot would you want, what right foot, like create the ultimate
Okay.
player, if you get me, like physicality as well. Like you might want to have Gyökeres in there. Like if you know a
Yeah.
player that's got a
Let's.
great left foot, yeah,
So I'm gonna go. Okay, I'll start top there. I'll start with the head.
yeah.
Got to go Olivier Giroud. A, he just looks beautiful, and two, he's got great heading. So we're gonna start off there. Um,
Fair enough.
we're gonna include goalkeepers here. I'm gonna go. Why not? We're gonna go Seaman probably. David
Okay, yeah.
Seaman, one of the best ever goalkeepers. Makes
Both hands,
sense.
or are you
Yeah.
gonna pick a different? Yeah, both hands.
No, I'm gonna go both because he was incredible.
Yeah,
Physicality. Now this is an interesting one. I'm gonna go with Gyökeres. Kind of makes
yeah.
sense.
Like we've said, he's is basically that
Um,
Haaland type. So I feel like,
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna. It's difficult. Speed is a difficult one, but I think Alex Scott.
hmm.
I remember her recovery times were incredible. Like
No, I like
the amount
that.
of times the ball was played past and she would just recover easily was
Especially
ridiculous.
obviously being like a wing back, she basically
Yeah,
played.
exactly. Going forward and defensively was
Yeah,
incredible. Um, Left foot, I think I've got to go Mesut Ozil. There's kind of not
yeah.
really much question about that.
Nemo, proper. Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. Right foot. Now, it's not her strong foot, but every time I watch her play, she just looks so comfortable. And I'm going to go Miedema
Okay.
because I know she is technically left-footed, but
Yeah.
if the ball comes onto her right foot, you know she's scoring probably more
She
from the
only
left.
sees the goal, to be fair.
Literally, like it was either her or Beth Mead because either one of them they have a shot and you're probably going to go in. Like, do you know what I mean? You're at least going to get a save or something. And I think,
Yeah, I feel like, well,
yeah,
that's all the physical part. That is,
yeah,
imagine that play. Like everyone just picture that in their head, like that player
that is
coming towards
incredible.
them with someone's arm, someone's leg.
That
That
is
would be unreal.
scary, but
Like if we could just put 11 of them in each team, we'd honestly win every league.
oh,
But also
absolutely,
one thing as well, like obviously that's physically what they look like and how they perform.
yeah.
But like shooting, passing, and personality are the three other things that I think create a good Arsenal human player. So like
Yeah.
what would you say, like who's the best shooter, passer, or personality wise as well?
So passing, I'm it's 50-50 for me because there's two players that come to mind. And I think one would be Cazorla
Yeah.
and the other one would be Odegaard.
Oh,
Just both of them are incredible.
yeah.
I think I'll go Odegaard because he's had a bit longer, but just wanted to
I
give
was
that
about to
out.
say either way in the midfield they just would control, and especially
Yeah,
Erdegaard, you
like
see right now the balls he does. I actually don't understand it. It's like he cuts the grass with them, like it's
yeah,
beautiful
it
to
is
watch.
incredible. Um, I want to do personality and leadership as two different ones.
Okay, yeah.
But personality, I'm gonna give Gabrielle. I think she
Okay.
was just a massive personality, always making the team laugh, always going over to players,
Mhm.
looking after them. And as someone who wasn't exactly captain per se, she was just always there.
Yeah,
I
definitely,
think
definitely.
I think leadership is a difficult one because there's been so many players that have stood out.
I know.
But
And not even just
I
captains as well.
this is the thing. Like I it's definitely hard, but I wanna I wanna go with Per Mertesacker. Really strange one, like really out
Right.
there,
Yeah.
but just someone that I remember was just always looking after players,
Mhm.
making sure everyone was okay. Would of course he was absolutely gigantic as well, but he
Mhm.
just had that kind of calming personality for everyone.
Yeah, no,
Like as a
that would be a
captain, he
mad
was someone who
combination.
just yeah, as a captain, imagine having like the captaincy skills of him, but the personality of Gabriel is just perfect.
Yeah,
Because you want
that's
someone who's bubbly, but then if you seem a bit switched on, can just switch you on so easily.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like that creates it. And I've actually forgotten the last one. Yeah, there was one more you said, and I've forgotten
Shooting.
it.
Yeah, the final
Shooting.
thing is
Oh,
just like shooting ability.
oh,
I feel like the sort of
it's a
comes and play with the feet, but
yeah, it's a 50-50 because I think two of the best finishes Arsenal have ever seen is Dennis Bergkamp or Thierry Henry.
hmm I was gonna
I
say
think
Henri, like if I had to pick, because I
I
was like,
yeah, I think if I had to choose in terms of finishing, I'd say technical ability would be Bergkamp. I think finishing is Henry, and I
yeah,
think no one else comes close.
no. And to be fair,
Maybe Ian Wright, but I think Henry is just such a standout. Like he's so good. I
yeah,
think
no,
yeah,
definitely. And
can't
I
argue
think
with that.
also it's a good sign that he wore the number 14 and Gyökeres. A lot of people are hyping
Oh
up the fact he's wearing number 14, and I'm
yeah.
like, okay, are we seeing the next strike? I mean, it's way too much pressure from the
I
media.
don't want to overhype it because look at Chelsea.
Yeah,
Chelsea have had so many issues. They had Drogba as number 9. Since then, haven't had a decent striker.
yeah,
I
it
don't
is
want to
true.
have the same. We've had Henri at 14, then haven't had a striker. So I don't want to suddenly give this guy the number where he's played in England before, but it's such a different level to what he's going to be
Yeah,
used to. I don't want to overpressure him because I feel like that happened to Jesus. Jesus was overpressured. He had coming from Man City, he had such a massive expectation that if you don't hit it, fans can turn on you so quickly.
hmm
Look at Pepe. Pepe joined Arsenal for 72 million. He probably wasn't worth that much money, but fans turned on him instantly. The fact is, if you look at his numbers, he was decent, He was a really good player. Like Pepe's numbers were great. It's just because it didn't turn out to be the best ever signing that
yeah.
fans just go, okay, it doesn't turn out like that. You're
Do you feel like
awful. We're gonna go
we're
next.
quite quick to change as a fan base? Not, I mean, to be fair, this
Yeah,
is football fans in general, not just Arsenal fans,
yeah.
but we're quite quick to be like, oh, they had one poor game, or oh my God, what was that touch? And then it's like, they're
Look at
bad.
Havertz.
Yeah. He
The
got written off,
pre-season,
and then,
this season that he joined, the pre-season, everyone was like he's going to be awful. By
yeah,
the end of the season, the same players, the same fans saying that love him,
yeah.
and then
It is crazy how you can
the
change.
same with thing with Noni Madueke. People
hmm
hate the fact that he's coming in, but
I'm hoping he can change the mind, because
this is a
we
thing.
need we need that cover for Saka, and we
This
need
is a
that cover for
thing.
Martinelli as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
So I think hopefully,
I think Sterling didn't work out, and I think it is a risk going to Chelsea and signing another player from them. But Madueke is younger, quicker, more
hmm
quality, more used to playing at high tempo now. And I think he is someone that I think the hate he's gotten is not deserved at all. And I really want him, especially as a black player, I really want him to come in and be like Havertz, where he just plays so good.
and
You know what I
proves
mean? To the
everyone
point where
wrong.
like to the point where you can't say anything bad against him. Let's
Yeah.
be honest, what Arsenal fan can really say anything bad against Havertz, given what everything he's done for us? Last minute winners, important goals,
He just got
build
an
up
injury.
play.
That's pretty much the only thing you can be like, oh, we've
Exactly.
got an injury. It was unlucky, but
Yeah.
he put his
But
all into it. So,
at the same time, Odegaard was injured for half a season. Saka was injured. We don't hate on these players for being injured. It happens in football. So I don't understand why just because we signed him from Chelsea, you can't give him different
mhm.
treatment. Once someone puts on an Arsenal shirt and is an Arsenal player, they deserve the same respect than someone who's come through the academy from day one.
It's true. It is
Because,
very true.
the fact is any player who joins Arsenal from another team has had to want to come to the club, which already means that they are almost more of a fan than any other fan because they have physically had the opportunity and have
hmm
rejected other teams to come here. Look at Gyökeres, rejected Man United with his old manager to come to Arsenal. That's commitment.
Yeah.
That is kind of the most commitment you can ask for as a
Hopefully,
fan.
honestly, hopefully that move pays off, and I'm hoping that all of them do. Like I kind of just want the season to start. Like I feel like I've been chatting to
Yeah,
loads of people, like you probably have as well, and it's like I just want it to start now.
I'm like, hurry
Um,
up, please.
no,
Don't do the
literally,
preseason to bring in the
literally.
games.
Somehow we managed to do the game at the end and then carry on yapping. So I can't actually, we just end up chatting this whole time.
So typical.
We'll probably stop this recording and then just still carry on talking. Anyways,
Absolutely.
but I will end the podcast there. The final thing I want to say is, where can people find you, Jamie? Because obviously you work in the game, you're on socials. I know you've got exciting ideas coming up for content. So where can we find you?
So give a shout out to the Blue Podcast Network.
Hmm.
All one word, with something that we've both done work for.
Yeah.
You know, we had a whole show on WSL. We are gonna continue doing that, especially on women's football. It's gonna
Yeah.
be all social media. So that's at the Blue Podcast Network.
No, that's exciting.
My individual handles on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter is Jamie Green Sports. Pretty easy, all one word. And as I said, I'm gonna start posting content about social media on social media about South American football.
Yes.
I think it's a topic that hasn't been spoken enough, and that is covering men and women South American football. And of course, still working at the Blue Podcast Network, doing work on European football. So always going to be stuff around there.
I was gonna say, I feel like you've always got you know so much about so many different leagues, and I feel like we literally could chat forever about all the different things you know and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
But I will put all those all the information in the description below on this video and also on Spotify as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this. This is obviously my first episode of the Arsenal Humans Fanzone. I'm so happy that the first guest could have been Jamie. And I will be doing these every other Friday going forward. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, follow, so then you can stay up to date with the journey. But I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you every Tuesday on Arsenal Humans podcast. But yeah, thanks again to Jamie for joining me. And that was the end of our first Fanzone episode.